So one would think that if you were a student in a creative writing program at an Ivy League school, your sole purpose for being there would be to become a better writer, to utilize the experts that you have access to improve your writing so you can go on, write the great American novel, right? One would think that would be the purpose. But no, that is no longer the purpose of being a student in a creative writing program, at least according to the creative writing students at Princeton University. And, this is this is not surprising at all, but at the same time, every time I see something like this where these kids, and yes, I'm going to say kids, I know they're technically adults, but whatever, they're acting like children. These kids have the opportunity, have the privilege of attending one of the most preeminent schools in the world, where they should be focusing purely on using the opportunity to become a better writer. And they also have the privilege of squandering it. They have the privilege of ignoring what they are there to do in favor of campaigning for something completely different. And then in the process of it, they accuse everyone else around them of being the true privileged ones. It's not the students at Princeton who are so unappreciative of the opportunities that they have that are the privileged ones. It's everyone around them that needs to bend to their whim as creative writing students. So this is a website and a list of demands that we're going to go over today from the creative writing students at Princeton University. Apparently they formed a committee. There's also faculty on this committee that are not apparently doing their job as faculty, but okay, whatever. They formed a little committee and they put together a list of demands to confront racism within the creative writing program at Princeton, which we all know is a deeply racist school because they did all this stuff last year to admit that they were a deeply racist school, and did so much of it, in fact, that the Department of Education actually started investigating them. They were like, you told us you were racist. Like, why wouldn't we investigate you for racism? Apparently, like, unintended consequences. But no, we've got a whole list of demands, and we're going to go over them here. But before we get into that, just a quick plug for the channel. I cover news mostly around social justice, critical race theory at the moment, but I post things almost every single day of the week on this channel. If you're enjoying the content I'm providing you, trying to shine some daylight on the insanity that is all happening because of critical race theory, thank you, academia. Please consider subscribing to my channel, turning on notifications, leaving a comment to feed that algorithm, sharing it out to your friends. I would also ask that please consider joining my Locals community. Locals is the best. Locals is the reason that I am not reliant on YouTube at all. It is a place where we can be completely uncensored, ad-free videos so you don't get any of those annoying ads. And it's also a place where I've got a wonderful community on Locals. My Locals people keep me sane. We do Zoom calls with each other twice a week. We do book club. We do all sorts of great stuff to help each other get through this hopefully momentary time of insanity in our culture. The information for my Locals is right down there, kb.locals.com, and I hope I get to meet you soon. All right, let's take a look at this list of student demands. First, support divestment, abolition, and reparations. Stand with students in urging the university to divest from the prison industrial complex, abolish the campus police, and pay reparations to descendants of enslaved people. Next up, and this is really the big one for me, as you all know, the creative writing students at Princeton are demanding that the university mandate anti-racist training. Require all creative writing faculty to undergo anti-racism training each semester with non-Princeton affiliated facilitators who are compensated for their time and their emotional labor. It should not take a review or a decision that a faculty member is racist for faculty members to be invested in the lifelong work of anti-racism. At a baseline level, a faculty member who is not actively engaged in anti-racism work is unable to teach all students equitably. Without exaggeration, this is a matter of faculty being proficient at their jobs. So you guys all know Aaron from UVM, Aaron Kinsvatter. I had him on my channel last week. He's the whistleblower from UVM. He still works at UVM. He still teaches at UVM. According to the creative writing students at Princeton, with guidance from the faculty that are guiding this little committee, a faculty member is not qualified to teach students unless they adhere to an anti-racist ideology. Can we just talk about how insane this is for a moment? I mean, like, this is... If you had any questions left about whether or not Ivy League schools are places where you want your kids to go, I hope that this just answered it, because it is absolutely ludicrous. This is, I mean, the whole purpose of the academy should be a free and open exchange of ideas and a rigorous debate of those ideas. That is the basis of liberalism. But we're not allowed to debate these ideas anymore. And if you go against what these students want, they're going to call you a racist and they're going to try to get you fired. And they're going to demand that only people who agree with them are teaching their classes. Invite the entire creative writing community to engage with anti-racism education throughout the year. In many creative writing workshops, it is customary to require students to attend anywhere from 1 to 3 writers' readings over the course of a semester, potentially summarizing their thoughts on these events. Well, that makes sense. It makes sense to attend workshops with writers when you are in a creative writing program. That's what you're there for. That's what you're there for. Not to be little woke activists. This custom provides a reasonable precedent for making at least one of these required events a lecture, a workshop, reading, or teaching that relates to anti-racism or centers BIPOC experiences. To address the dearth of the educational offerings at Princeton's campus, creative writing should commit to reading series focused exclusively on BIPOC writers that compensates these writers for their time and work. Dismantle white supremacy in the workshop space. Require creative writing workshop classes to establish anti-oppressive discussion norms at the beginning of the semester. These discussion norms should deal explicitly with thoughtfully engaging with peers' work without applying a white, colonial, heteropatriarchal lens. While specific norms may vary with the group of students in a particular workshop, potential points to consider includes: challenge norms that require the writer to be silent when the work is being workshopped, and that require the work to stand on its own without context before being worked up. These are creative writing students, and they don't want the written word to stand on its own without context. And I'm going to bet what that context is if the writer of that work is Black, you can't criticize it. I'm just going to take a wild stab in the dark. Consider how these workshop strategies may actually privilege writing that comes from dominant culture or privileged perspectives, while opening up writing that comes from different perspectives to criticism from an oppressive lens. I've got an idea. Why don't you just read what's written and do it blindly? Don't know who wrote it. That way white supremacy cannot veer its ugly head. If you don't know who wrote it and what race the person is, then how can white supremacy even exist in that context? Discuss specific procedures for discussing work that reclaims slurs is written partially or completely in vernacular, dialect, or different language. Discuss student paradigms for what it is like to be treated as realistic. Consider how BIPOC student experiences may be invalidated by comments like, "It's unrealistic to have that many Black people in a story." I mean, there might be context in which it, like, if you were writing, I'm sorry, if you were writing a story that takes place in my home state of Vermont, and every single character in that story is Black, yes, that is not realistic. I'm sorry. Like, Vermont is one of the most wokest, I think I just invented a new word, most wokest places on the planet, but it doesn't have a whole lot of Black people. So if every single character in your story is Black and it takes place in Vermont, it is indeed unrealistic. Create infrastructure within the creative writing unit for reporting and pursuing accountability for experiences of discrimination in the classroom. Now, we already know that these students think that all faculty should undergo anti-racist training several times a year. So what do you think is really going to qualify as discrimination in the classroom? Too often these experiences are communicated only to fellow BIPOC students in order to caution them against a particular course or a particular professor. BIPOC students should not have to rely on a whisper network to avoid experiencing racism in the classroom, which they're going to define racism as taking a course from anyone that does not adhere to this little anti-racist ideology, probably even if that professor happens to be Black. Foster BIPOC community for creative writing students. Intentionally hire more permanent BIPOC faculty, especially Black and Indigenous faculty, because of course now we are in a place where hiring decisions should be made based purely on race and nothing else. Create affinity spaces for BIPOC students. These spaces should allow for an exchange, regular meeting, and community building activities among BIPOC students. Here's my question. I actually don't have a problem with different affinity groups having spaces where I actually really, I know like some people like that's segregation. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't have a problem with women having spaces. I don't have a problem with men having spaces. I don't have a problem with BIPOC students having spaces. I think, probably if white students had to have their own space, that would be a problem, and we know they'd hear about that. But generally speaking, I think this is kind of like a meh thing. If they want to get together, I don't really care. But my question is this. Why can't they do that on their own? Why? Why can't they just form a club? Why can't they create their own? Or I don't understand why the university specifically has to come in and create an initiative when the students are probably perfectly capable of doing it themselves. Center anti-racism and BIPOC writers and curriculum. Create introductory level courses that center on the intersection between identity, art, and social change. I'm sure those don't exist at Princeton at all. The only course offered by creative writing that explicitly focuses on race should not be an upper level seminar that is inaccessible to the majority of students. Race in creative writing is not a special topic and can only be treated like one in a program that centers whiteness. Mandate a course in anti-racism and equity in creative writing as a core course for creative writing certificate students. Why not? Why not? Why not just mandate that everyone in any university program has to go through anti-racist indoctrination in order to graduate from that program? Rigorously engaging with the concerns of empathy and justice is vital to a writer's craft and is vital above and beyond a writer's craft. How in the world did the great books that we have today ever get written if they were not required first to go through anti-racist training? How did Catcher in the Rye would Catcher in the Rye ever get written again today? How did Great Expectations get written? Would it ever get written again today? I think we all know the answer to that. Develop or strengthen partnerships with programs and departments that explicitly center BIPOC teaching and experiences. Yeah, fine, whatever. Expand access to creative writing's resources. Perform sustained outreach to BIPOC students in advance of creative writing course application periods. Fundamentally reconsider the application-only structure for workshop courses. I don't have much to say there because I don't know how their system works, but this is a list. This is a list. Equip creative writing students for anti-racist practice beyond the university. Oh, what does that mean? Does that mean create little social justice warriors? Prepare interested BIPOC students for careers in creative writing and the arts. Isn't that, I'm sorry, like, am I sniffing glue? Like, isn't that what the creative writing program is supposed to do for all students already? Like, isn't the whole purpose of a creative writing program that it's supposed to prepare them for careers in creative writing and the arts? Why isn't the creative writing program already doing this? Create consistently offered coursework that integrates the structural racial dynamics of literary institutions, including but not limited to publications, presses, nonprofits, and universities. Commit to ongoing transparency and accountability. Commit to soliciting specific anonymous feedback from creative writing students on how coursework and anti-racism initiatives on a regular, semesterly basis. Hire equity, diversity, and inclusion consultants to research and oversee what creative writing can do to help marginalized community, as well as BIPOC students, because again, we aren't there to learn how to write, we're there to be little activists. Publish semesterly or yearly summaries of the work of the Committee on Race and the Arts. All right. Well, this is just one of many. We'll see what Princeton does about this. I mean, I'm sure they're already doing a lot of this stuff already, if I'm quite frank, but I just wanted to show you what creative writing students are demanding of their university. If you have materials like this that you would like me to take a look at, please, please, please get in touch with me. My information is in the description. You can just go to drcarlin.com/contact, send me a note, tell me what you have, tell me what you want to share. I always protect identities. I will not reveal where I got it from. But the important thing is that we need to shed light on how this is happening, whether it be a big thing like the Coke Be Less White training or a relatively minor thing like this, because this is all about a trend, folks. We've got to be shining daylight on these things when we can, and people need to be speaking up and fighting back in ways that they are most able. I know that most of you are not in a position where you can speak up because you'll put yourself in danger of losing your job or what have you. But I can speak up, and I'm happy to speak up on behalf of many people who can't. So get in touch with me. If you have stuff like this, you can email me on my website. You can just send the documents directly to activelyunwoke@protonmail.com or at gmail.com. They both work. Actively Unwoke, ACTIV, actively, the word actively, I'm going to butcher it if I try to spell it, but then it's unwoke, UNWOKE. So the word actively unwoke at protonmail.com, at gmail.com. Either of them work just fine. All right, folks, that's all I have for right now. I'll see you soon.